We're here to kick ass. If you with the kung fu, then this your podcast. No breaks, all gas. This the kick-ass movie podcast. We're here to kick ass. If you with the kung fu, then this your podcast. No breaks, all gas. This the kick-ass movie podcast. What you know about being a black belt? Len Kabasinskis can tell you how that felt. Swift kick from a man can turn into a bad spell. Kick-ass movies and Len really tend to add well. North, Mr. North Star. Pop the judo, chop you right out your car. Push to the haze, Mr. Always raise the bar. He strives to be great and exceeds it by far. So sit back, relax, we getting dirty like a mud pit. Talking kickboxer and blood fist. If we catch you dozing off, then you gotta go. What you know about Taekwondo? We're here to kick ass. If you with the kung fu.
What's good, y'all? Kush Hayes here, coming to you. Season 2 finale, episode 12. We got a live one on our hands today, folks. I'm with, as always, the director of Pact of Vengeance, Master Len Kabasinskis. What's good, Len? How you doing, sir?
How are we doing today, Kush? I'm doing fantastic. We mentioned Pact of Vengeance. It is coming soon. I do not have a release date yet, but it will be coming to my Patreon campaign first, as my last several movies have done. If you're waiting for it to be on Amazon and all those kind of things, I don't know when that's going to happen. But I'll start talking to home video distributors and stuff like that, video on demand distributors, that kind of thing. It will start in late May, but as of that time, it'll be available to watch and download on my Patreon campaign there. And from there, maybe late this year, early next, it'll come out to places like Amazon and Tubi and those kinds of things.
Man, that's exciting. Now, is this going to cost fans of the Patreon anything extra, or is this all included in that $2 lump sum?
All included in $2. I have a $5 level. That's just, hey, if you can spare it, do it. I appreciate it. It super helps kind of thing. But I don't hold anything back from anybody. So
there you go, man. That's what's up, guys. But for less than a cup of coffee, you can get the newest Len Kabasinskis film, Pact of Vengeance. That's coming out late May. It'll be on patreon.com/killerwolffilms.
That's right.
Hey, look at me. It's like I've been doing this for a minute. Dude, we got a barn burner on our hands today, man. This
It is my favorite all-time martial art film.
Not just your favorite martial art film, not just your favorite David Carradine film, but like your favoriteest movie, yes?
Yeah, it's in terms of martial arts and stuff, yes. My favorite film is What's Eating Gilbert Grape. But in martial art land and stuff like that, my favorite film is this one, Circle of Iron, or The Silent Flute, if you're listening to this over in Europe or something like that. So,
oh, neat. I don't even have that in my notes here.
Silent Flute. Yeah, and I still think it's called that. It still was released as that in overseas territories, but for some reason in the U.S. it is called Circle of Iron.
That all of a sudden now makes the very last line of the movie like a flute that only I can hear. Like that line never comes up until the very end of the movie. We won't get into that context yet, but all right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Len, how did this movie come on your radar? 1978. Is this something you saw in the theater?
No, I wish. I never have, but this is one of those things I wish they would do some kind of cult cinema showing of this one and stuff. It doesn't have quite the popularity as we see when movies would go to the cinema multiplexes lately, and they'll do a special Exorcist is playing or special Jaws or so. And I mean, all those are far superior films in terms of popularity and maybe in terms of filmmaking. But yeah, I would like to see some of these cult ones revived here. I'd love to see this on the big screen in a beautiful print or a 4K print of this movie. And if I just bought a 4K print, a Blu-ray disc, a 4K Blu-ray of Alligator, or if I just bought a 4K disc of Dead Heat, then certainly Circle of Iron is worthy of getting a 4K treatment. I mean, I'm sure the footage and quality footage exists to do something like that. So it came on my radar because I collect a lot of David Carradine stuff. I have a lot of his posters, 27 by 41 theatrical posters. I've got many of his films. Many were not even released in the U.S., like Open Fire, which would have been in like 1987-ish. Run for Your Life, all these kinds of films that were never really released over here in the US, but I have them on either some kind of a rip of a VHS tape. Lots of VHS tapes. I probably have 80 David Carradine films on VHS. So Circle of Iron I just kind of ran into early in my once I learned of it, which would have been, by the time I'm 7-8 years old, I'm probably, we're talking mid 80s maybe at this point. The movie I think is 1977. So at that point, I'm running home from school to watch Kung Fu and stuff like that, reruns on ABC and stuff like that. So, once I learned of that, I thought, okay, who's this actor playing Kane and stuff? So then I follow his stuff. Oh, what's this martial art movie? And so that's how I ran into it first off, is probably renting it on VHS at my local mom and pop video store near my house.
I don't know every David Carradine movie, but there's this small bubble of his career that would just play on syndication out here in San Francisco. And I'm surprised this wasn't one of them, because this would be right up there with, your Kung Fu, the movie, and other stuff like that.
Brandon Lee. Yeah. He's had a really weird career, but if you look at any of those, much like his dad and stuff like that, John Carradine, anybody, but look today as we see that Bruce Willis is now, retiring from acting due to health things, but he's had a pretty weird career the last 5 or so years as well, with really poor quality direct-to-video films and stuff like that. I mean, I think any actor that stays in the game long enough, chances are Arnold Schwarzenegger had that weird dramatic zombie movie he did 7 or 8 years ago that was pretty bad. I can't remember.
A decade ago, Maggie,
right? Maggie wasn't very good, but anyways. Everybody hits those moments. Sylvester Stallone has had his direct-to-video moments. All these actors, and Carradine, I think, has had the strangest career, where he goes from being an Oscar nominee from something like Bound for Glory, which is a great movie based on the life story of Woody Guthrie. You go from Bound for Glory, which he would have just shot before Circle of Iron, and then you get to the 80s, and he's doing some really low-budget stuff. You know what I mean? Not quite what you'd see like micro budget indie movies like I make, or like that would have started 20 years ago almost. He's not quite that bottom basement yet, but he did some pretty bad ones there for a good stretch, and then Kill Bill brought him back, and off we go again.
Do you feel an extra level of remorse about the way he was found out? Like I know the boys in Milwaukee will have fun making jokes about that, but you're just like, of all the ways you could have gone that way, just
Honestly, no, Kush. I would agree, and this is not my favorite filmmaker by any means, but I recognize importance and significance. And we're talking about Quentin Tarantino when they asked him about it. And he's like, well, it's pretty badass, I think, because he went out the way he probably wanted to go out, and how badass is that to do that? I mean, you want to die in a hospital bed eating Jello and meds, or you want to go out, something pretty badass that'll be talked about forever. I think it was a little strange, and I mean, I don't want to say embarrassing for his family and stuff like that. His brothers are obviously actors. I mean, his whole family is really, but at one point it seemed like a little bit of denial that maybe David Carradine was getting his freak side on, and we might all have that a little bit, but to some degree. But his family at one point were saying that they felt ninjas had assassinated him and stuff. Some really weird stories came out that Carradine was assassinated by ninjas, and I thought, no, I think he was just getting his freak on thing and died in a freak accident kind of thing. So it's something that they're going to be poked at forever. But tell me what's worse though. So being poked at for just getting your freak on in Thailand somewhere on the set of a film when you're in Thailand with hookers or whatever, or something like O.J. Simpson, who was accused of murdering people. I mean, what's worse? You know what I mean? I think that's a fairly easy answer. You know what I mean?
Well, one you're definitely not alive for. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. Circle of Iron, directed by Richard Moore, and famously, like they bash it into your brain that this was a story written by Bruce Lee. Screenplay gets extra credits for someone else, but James Coburn and Bruce Lee were trying to put this together.
Correct.
And yeah, what is it, like 10 years, maybe 7 years after his death? But 10 years.
Yeah, it came maybe not after his death, but after they started pitching this project, because I believe they started pitching this in the late 60s. And then, of course, other stuff came along. I mean, Bruce Lee wasn't even a real super big name yet in the US.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, he had the Green Hornet part and stuff like that under his belt, but there
Mhm.
was no Enter the Dragon yet. And I mean, he was
Okay.
dead pretty much, I think, almost as that was coming out to the theaters. I think he
Yes.
never had a chance to really take in all this fame from Enter the Dragon because he was dead. But so you figure that's 73, that comes out, Circle by in 77. So yeah, it comes out 5 years after he died or so, 4 years, 5 years. There's some weird stuff about it. I mean, I could see Bruce Lee in a role like this, but would I think it would have been better with him in it than David? Honestly, I don't, because I think when David's playing all the different characters, and we'll get to this in the movie, I can't see Bruce Lee pulling that off. I mean, you need somebody that had some acting skill, I think, to do some of the wide range of characters and stuff that David plays in this, because when this was pitched and David started getting this together, they wanted him to play Cord, and he was more interested in being the guy the silent flute guy. That I don't think they ever say his name in the movie. It's a nomad, or whatever it is. I don't think they ever say his name. But yeah, he wanted to do that instead, where he got to play several different roles throughout the movie. So yeah, I think Bruce Lee. I don't know. I'm a Bruce Lee fan. I love Enter the Dragon and stuff like that. So I'm not of the kind that he was the be-all end-all of all martial art films or anything like that. But or if he even really got it going in the U.S. per se. I'm not so sure David Carradine wasn't that man, because Kung Fu was before, the Dragon and stuff came out. Kung Fu was already had a couple seasons under its belt before that came out. So in the U.S., and then obviously it blew up. Martial art films blew up and became a real genre that lasted quite a while in the U.S. Once Enter the Dragon came out.
Yeah, all my notes here indicate that Coburn kept the torch going after Bruce Lee's demise, but. So I think you're a little more well versed in Bruce Lee-isms than I am, but rumor has it Bruce Lee had a chip on his shoulder about David Carradine, especially over the Kung Fu series. How do you think he would have felt about Carradine taking this role also? I mean, he's dead. Nothing he's going to do about it, but.
Right. Yeah, I don't think he'd be super thrilled about it, just because I think there was that riff. And some of it, the Kung Fu thing, yes. But again, the thing that it's hard is an actor or non-actor, or someone that's trying to be a martial artist but isn't an actor, or maybe somebody's both, or whatever. You give me a dancer or a ballerina or just a great athlete, I can make them look like they know martial arts in a fight scene and stuff like that. I have to have somebody with athleticism, and David had that. David Carradine obviously had that. But the thing he had over Bruce Lee, which I believe won him the part of Kane, is he can act. I could not see Bruce Lee pulling off some of the acting complexities of the Kwai Chai Kang character. Would Bruce have done well? Would it have been just as popular? Yeah, I think so, probably. But in terms of that character development and stuff, could he have done what Carradine did there? No. My answer would be no. But on the flip side of that, could Carradine do Enter the Dragon? And I'd say, probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, I think I agree with you on that one there. Getting back to Cord. So before Carradine was even brought up, Bruce Lee wanted to play Monkey Man, Blind Man. He wanted to play those 4 characters, but they want Steve McQueen to play Cord, and he turned him down, saying this Bruce Lee kid's not going to be a star just yet. He's got a ways to go. And then they just moved on with it. But yeah, man. So I don't necessarily know where to start. Obviously, we start at the beginning, but this is one of those 70s slow burns. So you have to pay attention to every frame. But if I didn't know you better, Len Kabasinski, I would say that there's some psilocybin mushrooms happening, not only just on the set, but with your enjoyment in this. But I could be wrong about that. But this is a trippy film, dude.
Yeah, it's definitely the philosophy, I think, is all there in martial arts. That's why I really like it. I think the trippy components to it come from, the wild characters and stuff like that, but that pop in and throughout the movie. Jeff Cord, who is our lead, if you will, or co-lead with David Carradine, he was pretty inexperienced, I think, at the time. I think he went on to do something more popular, like a Falcon Crest or some kind of show like that. Is that what it was?
He does a lot of TV, and then he has a Canadian version where he plays a gentleman with a turban that definitely would not fit him today.
Well, he's quite dead now. I think he died a few years back there, Jeff Cole. But but he looks the part. He looks, like Conan. You know what I mean? If you're going to tell me James Coburn could pull off that physique and things like that, I think we're kidding ourselves there, maybe. Jeff Cord definitely fits the Conan part in this, and he doesn't look like a particular young man either in this movie. He looks like he's pushing, his 40s and stuff like that. So. It's I can't wait to get into the promotions and stuff, because there's some weird stuff for this movie. So you're talking about trippy. It gets really trippy after we'll talk about the story a little bit first, I guess. But really where to start. There's beautiful scenery. The cinematography's good, which you would expect from a director like what is it, Richard Moore?
Yeah, Richard Moore, who this is his only feature film. Otherwise, he's mainly a cinematographer.
Correct.
Which is why all the scenes look very beautiful. But he does a little of this. He does 1982's Annie. Like he stops right before the 90s, I believe. But yeah, they shoot this in Israel, and then any pickup fights that they would do, they're just on a back lot in Los Angeles. But again, very experimental stuff, very cinema 70s. It's not the well-oiled choreography that we're used to today. Like these guys are a little bit rough with their techniques, so there's a lot of quick cutting back to a crowd, and then there's a punch. We don't see it connect, but then we get another shot of someone else reacting to that punch, and we start this movie at a tournament. Is this prehistoric or is this post-apocalyptic? I mean, it's fantasy, it's an extravaganza. There's definitely an Odyssey in play here, but
I think that's a brilliant point. And I've never thought of that, Kush. Is this a post-apocalyptic film, or is it an AD film, or whatever you want to call it there? So, I honestly don't know. I get the feeling like it's more back in time than it is forward in time. That's the feel I get from it. But
I mean, it's very multicultural, and then you don't see the random decayed Coca-Cola sign, but there's definitely hieroglyphics, and then there's the monkey men, which was this could be just that this is that past step, from Cro-Magnon to man, and
that's the feeling I got from it. Yeah. I think the characters are really interesting, but he's going through trials throughout the film, the Cord character. So he gets the Monkey King, and again, David Carradine is playing all these bosses, if you will, as he goes throughout the film there. And I think several of them are really, really good. Like you mentioned about the fight scenes, Kung Fu is not the easiest thing, and that's the style, obviously, David is doing in this movie. It's not always the easiest to film. Because all the motions, a lot of them in Kung Fu are all circular and flowing, and it's very beautiful to watch and things. But in terms of a big fight scene, it's pretty hard to do. It's much easier to do direct striking type stuff like in traditional karate and things like that. Kung Fu is a little bit harder to make those fight scenes look good.
Well, I will say that Carradine's technique is definitely the stronger of the two. So the scene where he's being jumped by the campfire and Cord's just watching, whoa, blind man fight. And the scene, is it just the fight with Shang-Chi? Whatever. Anyway, Carradine, he's got with the army.
That might be
he's doing sweeping grand gestures. Everything's making contact with him. Cord can barely extend his leg to do a side kick to a horse. Ironically, it was a weird thing to try and do, but. Again, cinematically, we protect Cord a lot with a lot of jump cuts.
Yeah, and there were so many different actors that were trying to do that or slated to be Cord. I think Cord was one of Carradine's personal friends at the time, and Carradine just kind of got him in because everything else was falling through. I know that real-life kickboxing champion, who apparently was like a dick back then, it's even in that new movie with, I think Tarantino might have done it, the one with Brad Pitt and stuff that's set back in the 70s.
Oh well, Once Upon a Time in L.A.
Correct.
Hollywood.
The guy that plays Bruce Lee in that movie. Something's mentioned where no, he's not that blonde dickhead karate guy or kickboxer guy. They're talking about the one and only Joe Louis back then, who apparently was pretty abrasive guy back then, a brilliant American kickboxer. He was supposed to play Cord, and I can see why he didn't get it, because again, he cannot act. And in these films, that's a critical component you can't overlook. This isn't just your normal like B movie kind of thing. You know what I mean? You can't pass this movie off with poor performances and stuff. You have to have some good acting in a movie like this, and I do think it has it. And obviously, Cord is a better actor. Jeff Cooper is a better actor than Joe Lewis was, but they're both dead. But Joe Lewis, oddly enough, doesn't get the role. And then they didn't like a lot of, you mentioned Jeff Cooper. I keep calling him Jeff Cord, but Cord is his character. Jeff Cooper. A lot of his fight scenes, like you mentioned, were kind of, he's not the most athletic. He looks athletic, but he's not. He's got a good physique. They called in Joe Lewis back in LA to shoot some B footage of fight scenes to make the fight scenes look better. So some of Cooper's footage is actually done by Joe Lewis, who was supposed to play Cord in the beginning.
I suspected there was obviously going to be a stunt coordinator or a stunt team, but I also felt like when we get to the Monkey King, I feel like that's not David Carradine 60% of the time. I mean, he's heavily covered in makeup, so I could just be dead wrong about that. I was like,
that one, I don't know. I think you're wrong there. I don't think he's doubled much at all in this. For one, people forget, he was a big dude. He was tall and lanky. Carradine had to be 6'3" or 6'4". Kind of hard to double somebody lanky like that. And he was a dancer and then all that kind of stuff before Kung Fu and stuff. But no, I think most of that's him. He's got just a quirky body language to him. And again, some of that's his frame and everything. But no, I think most of that fight stuff is his. The ones that would be really interesting to watch and go back and watch now are when did Jeff Cooper get doubled by Joe Lewis kind of thing. That's that's something I would look for if I went back and watched it now.
Right. Yeah, you can find it right now on Amazon for rental for $4. Those asking how can I see this? We're still at the tournament, man. So tournament is happening. Cord goes all the way to the finals. He ends up, he outshines our guy. What's his name? Morthon, which is a very futuristic alien name. But the powers that be, Roddy McDowell, the Grand Poobah, is like, no, man, you're not allowed to hit a guy on the ground. You are disqualified. Morthon is going to get our amulet here, and he's going to go and find Zaytan, and he's going to look for the Book of Enlightenment. This whole thing is a quest for a MacGuffin called the Book of Enlightenment. And
I think it's critical to point out with the Book of Enlightenment, though, the reason why they mention it quite a few times throughout, and that's what the whole quest is about, kind of thing. I think it makes the ending scene that much more meaningful, or the second to ending scene when he actually finds the book itself, because the message and everything all ties into everything in the movie, I think, pretty perfectly, and it's a good message to kind of go through life with as well. But right, we're on to the Book of Enlightenment now. He's after Zaytan. We meet the Monkey King. I forget what order it's in, but yeah, he meets several David Carradine characters throughout then. He meets Eli Wallach, who I believe just passed away not too long ago, is the man in the oil.
Oh, yeah. That's a strange scene as well.
Beautifully shot, which you would expect for this movie.
For sure. Yeah, let's jump ahead to the man in the oil. What's his deal? Basically, he's riddled with guilt over cheating on his wife a million times, and just like, I'm just going to dissolve my dick off in oil. That was a thing you could do, but he's doing it. He's like, I've been here a decade, and like, Cord at first is like, are you in trouble? How can I help you? You need assistance to get out of there? Like, what can I do to help make your life better? He's like, right where I want to be, player.
Right.
In fact, he's like, I got room for one more too, buddy. Why don't you come on in? We'll do this together.
Right. I think there is a parable there, if you will, much like the Bible. I don't want to get too religious about anything, but I believe, God has to exist somewhere. I don't believe when you're dead kind of thing. But, some of the old books in the Old Testament, I guess, if you will, and I was raised Catholic. Some of it, even back then, I thought this can't be possible. This man cannot live in this whale's mouth for 6 months, or that's just not possible. That's not scientifically possible. We know that now, but there's those hardcore, believers that say, "Oh, yes, he did. It's as that book said," and I'm like, that. No way. So I think there's a story being told with that character that's meant to be a parable for something else.
I mean, that totally makes sense. The guy, again, is talking about like He's like, why don't you just take a vow of chastity? He's like, I did that. I took 10 vows. I took 100 vows, and every single time I ended up back here. Yeah, the guy in the oil is it's one of the one things that's just like it's wildly out of place, and ironically, it's in the middle of a desert. So,
but then when you look at the message of the movie and go backwards, is it really out of place though?
no, again,
Something to think about.
There's a lot of psychedelic reasoning happening here, so I have to study things a little bit more. But yeah, no, the guy has a purpose there. We've met the guy in oil after defeating the Monkey King, and that's after meeting the blind man. And I like Carradine's introduction as the blind man. He's just walking down the alley. He's got a little bell on his toe, and that's just so he can hear where he's going. And I don't know why I find that so clever. But yeah, we've our guy ends up following Mordok, whatever the winner's name is, only to find out that he has been bested by the Monkey King and helps him with ritual suicide. And despite the fact that the powers that be, that Roddy McDowell said, you're not allowed to go on this quest, Cord, he's just like, yeah, I do what I want. Whatever.
and he does.
And he does. So now fast forward, we've learned some lessons. We've met the guy in the oil, and then all of a sudden we find a party in the desert. And I gotta say, I like Chang Sha.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah. It's like my favorite
persona.
Yes. This is my favorite character in the film.
I get it. I get why, dude. He's got the great hair. He's got the fantastic facial features, like the flowing robe. He looks like Hugh Hefner in the desert, and he's just like, here, have some rum. Come here, lay with my wife. Hey, this guy and I, we're gonna fight later. You want to check that out? It's gonna be a good time, you know. And that's Earl Maynard I'm talking about, and he doesn't have a name, but he's listed as Black Giant, and sure enough, he is just that, a giant. That's a fun fight.
Yeah, it might be the best in the movie. It's definitely one of them. I mean, when you get to the Monkey King fight scene, it's a lot of like body movement and stuff like that. Sure, there's some kicks and punches, but I mean, it's more of a freaky, weird body movement class kind of thing when he's the Monkey King. But you get to that fight, that's kind of a cool fight. Maybe the best in the movie, really.
He ends up besting the Black Giant in a very violent and horrific end, but then like still just fires that fortune cookie logic. I was like, in your quest to find the truth, in defeat, you have actually won, and now you know everything, but you did. And I was trying to bring up a minute ago, like I feel like there's multiple quests happening here, or multiple tournaments, multiple factions, because Black Giant has his own medallion, and then once he's dead, like Shang Sha just doesn't give a shit. He throws that thing away like it's any other trinket. Yep. I want to say there was one other guy, obviously not Mordor, Morthand. I feel like there was one other guy like on a quest, and they never get into it, but he's got the medallion. Anyways, Chang Sha says, "Hey man, enjoy Terra. She's my 9th wife, and you guys figure your own thing out." And at first, Cord's trying to, he's taking a vow of chastity, man, and she's like, you can enjoy this fruit and not eat it at the same time. Again, more fortune cookie logic, but I was like, I feel where you're going with this, Tara. All right, there's some sponge bath, there's a heavy cuddle session, and at one point, it's like, maybe you're right. Maybe I could have my fun.
Yeah,
our guy wakes up the next morning in the desert, not in his bed, and the entire camp and the entire party has been taken down.
It's gone
without disturbing him. It's weird.
Again, that one of those psychedelic, trippy moments to this film, right? He's in the desert, everything else is gone, kind of thing. I like your description of Sang Chai there and stuff. Just like, hey, I'm fighting later. You want to check that out? Come on, you're gonna have some rum, do this. He's my favorite character by far.
There's a lot going on with him. It gets to the point where when he does disappear, like you're kind of bummed out, but then he shows up again later in the movie, like, oh, hey, where's the next party, pal? And he's like, no, now we fight. And there's some mind games with that, but we'll get into that later. So we wake up at the desert. We find out actually Tara's dead now too, which was kind of a bummer. Like he was willing to give up the whole quest. It's like, just you and me, let's be in love. Let's just wander these deserts forever together as a team. Like we can do it. And she's dead. We then meet Death, which there's some cool stuff about it. I like the way it looks. I wish they had done more with it.
Yeah, I don't know what else you could really do though in context of moving this kind of story along and stuff. Where does it really fit without giving him, death its own kind of segment kind of thing? I don't know if it fits really in with the movie.
Well, death is only there for a few minutes. We rehook up with the blind man, and they cross the river with a ferry boat that then the blind man immediately destroys. And Cord is like justifiably freaked out by this, but also David Carradine's not saying shit. He's just, do what I do. You don't worry about it. And I know what I'm doing. I damaged this boat for a reason. An army shows up. This is one of the most multicultural armies I've ever seen. We got samurais and Romans, and there's a Viking in there, and just the armor is all mixed up. But sure enough, again, fun little fight scene where David Carradine is just hitting everybody with a flute. As this is going on, like the army destroys a brick wall by this one house that just happens to be in the way, and Carradine is taking time in between the fight to like rebuild the wall just so that their money pouch doesn't get stolen. But again, Cord isn't understanding any of this.
Right.
It's also just a lot like maybe we could fix that after the fight. I don't know. We beat the army, but then Carradine gets a vision of a child and then immediately assaults a child, bloodies his nose. It's the hardest I laugh in the movie. I can't help it. But then finally, like, he explains himself. He's like, yeah, hey, I smashed the boat so that the army wouldn't kill the ferryman and his wife. I rebuilt that wall so that the army again wouldn't find this woman's stash of money, and her kids and her orphan kids will be fine. I beat the shit out of that kid because he's just going to make his parents a living hell, and they weren't doing it for him. Like it's there's some fun logic there.
Yes.
Let's see. We get back to Changsha. I'm actually patting myself on the back here for how fast I'm floating through this. We fight Changsha, and then he's like, "You are worthy. You have passed all your tests. This boat here is going to take you to Zeton." And we meet Zeton and the rest of his crew, and
There's
Christopher Lee. What a strange casting choice. Like, I
Does
don't know who
Star
I was
Wars the same
expecting.
year?
Really?
Yeah, Star Wars was 77. He would have done.
No,
Star
but he's
Wars
not in the
same
first Star Wars. No.
Christopher Lee?
Yeah, he's in.
Oh,
episode.
I'm thinking about. No, I got him mixed up. I'm thinking of Peter Cushing.
Yes, Peter Cushing. I think Cushing also played Dracula, didn't he?
I believe so. Yeah, it would have
All
been in the 70s. Yeah.
There you go. That's where that's coming from. Yeah. So Dracula, Christopher Lee, he's the big boss, the one we've been hearing so much about. He's invincible. He's a force to be reckoned with. He's the immovable object. You have to defeat him to find the Book of Enlightenment. And Zaytown the entire time is just like, you want some tea?
Right.
You want to hang out? Look at this view, man. Like, this could be all yours. Like,
and
why would I
gorgeous.
fight you?
They're in a tower type thing. It's a gorgeous view, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and he offers some tea and stuff.
Cord is wildly confused by all this. He's like, dude, I've been training my entire life to kill you. And he's like, yeah, you don't have to do that. Like,
he just went through a gauntlet of other warriors to get there, and then he's offering them tea and take the book. Go ahead.
Yeah, you want to take? Hey, look at the book, and we see that the book is nothing but mirror after mirror after mirror after mirror, and Cord throws his head back in laughter. He's laughing harder than Jack Nicholson's Joker. Meanwhile, Christopher is like, dude, don't leave. Like, you should take. I don't know why he's so hell bent on him taking his spot.
Right.
Like, any one of those other guys there could take the spot as well. But he's like, I need you to take my. It seems like he could just leave too. But Cord abandons the entire project, finds the blind man out in the mountains, and then they end the movie with a little dance off. And yeah, man, this is a very interesting film, Len Kabasinski.
Yes, I love that the Book of Enlightenment, when they finally get to it, means that it is, within yourself kind of thing. I like the message there. Like I said, all the different characters and stuff. And now when you bring up like the multicultural army and stuff like that, well, you got to wonder, was it intentional? Was someone thinking of all this stuff? Because the Book of Enlightenment's within yourself, but it's within yourself, whatever culture you come from, the message is the same. So you got to wonder if those things were done by happy accident. What was it? They meant to make it so multicultural throughout. Interesting points, I think.
If anything, they probably tried to make it more multicultural, and like this was as much as the powers that be, the folks holding the money were like, you can have this little Asian family with the wall. That's it. You're just getting those three guys. Otherwise, f off here. Len, you got kids that are around the proper age. Did you notice that the ending of Circle of Iron is the same ending as Kung Fu Panda 2008? That's an IMDb note here.
I did not, but now I'm interested. So it's Kung Fu Panda, the two?
Number one, 2008.
The first Kung Fu Panda is the same ending as Circle of Iron. Yes, now I'm very interested in seeing the ending of Kung Fu Panda.
I mean, but that could mean anything, though. Like, does he just find a book with mirrors, or do they just have a dance off at the end? Probably just have a dance off, right?
I don't know, but if it's the Book of Mirrors, holy crap, you know? It's kind of an original ending there, and it's really an original film when you think about it. It definitely, I believe, stands out in a lot of other, you know, more macho, if you will, style, you know, martial art pictures and stuff. This has a different message to it, kind of thing.
During the filming of the fight sequences, David Carradine's nose was broken twice.
Yep.
His toe was gouged, and he hurt his knee.
Yeah, he was getting hurt a lot on stuff. Some of that's probably because he was high a lot, you know, on set. Probably it's hard to do, you know, really choreographed stuff when you're involving weapons and stuff. I know something happened. I think he got in a fight with somebody when he was trying to date Tina Turner, or something was happening in Africa when he was there. And this is like around 83 or 84, and he had busted his hand and had to wear a cast. But yet he had to go like literally 2 days later to go to Roger Corman's A Warrior and the Sorceress movie, which was a theatrical release movie back then in 1984 and everything. Really another wild movie. But it's very much like the Dashiell Hammett's Red Harvest, you know, Yojimbo, those kinds of things. But anyways, Carradine wears a gauntlet sleeve on his arm, which is really a cast because he broke his arm. So he wears it throughout the movie, kind of thing.
What are the odds you think he fought Ike Turner that night?
I have no idea what the story was. I remember he punched a wall or something. I forget what book it's in. It's either in Carradine's autobiography, Endless Highway, which is a really good read, by the way. It's like 500 pages. I blew through it in probably 3 days. But yeah, it might be in that, or it was in one of the Corman books about the stuff. But I remember reading about that in production. So it makes sense. I heard Jeff Cooper got his tooth knocked out pretty early in filming in this movie. So, and that comes from one, that's probably a lot of weed on set and things like that with people goofing off. And you should not throw kicks to the face if you're on weed, people. It's a bad idea. Don't drink and drive. That's a you know, big message. But also don't drink or smoke weed or hard drugs and then do fight scenes. You will hurt somebody, possibly kill them. You could definitely knock their teeth out and stuff. So
yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's a fair warning. The only other interesting note I've got here, you actually banged out a bunch of them there, dude. But the last one I got here is Bruce Lee actually met up with Roman Polanski in Switzerland, hoping he might direct this movie. So how crazy would that have been?
I wonder how much just the tone of the picture would have changed. I mean, I know the script is Bruce Lee's and stuff, but Bruce Lee wasn't known, you know, for his sensitive Kwai Chai Kane type character. You know what I mean? He was have your shirt off, be super ripped, you know, crack people with nunchucks and stuff, and all the that's cool too. But yeah, I don't know, that I can't see the blind man, that character. I can't see those characters being the same, and I'm not so sure Bruce Lee had the acting complexity and talent to pull off five different characters, you know, throughout the movie. I don't know. I don't know how that would have turned out, to be honest.
Oh, man. This is all I got here, man. There's no box office report. There's no report on the budget of how much this made. How is it successful? What was this movie called? It was the Whispering Flute.
Silent Flute.
The Silent
It was called
Flute.
Silent Flute, and I believe that's what it was under production, and that's what Bruce Lee had called it, was Silent Flute. And then for some reason in the U.S. they changed it to Circle of Iron. But yeah, a strange ride. I'm sure this was considered a box office disappointment, because from there on out, Some of these stars, the director, Richard Moore, doesn't direct again. Of course, he does cinematography on bigger movies, but this was it. So either he had a miserable experience directing and said, I've had enough, but I can't imagine the amount of drugs and everything else that was on set of this movie doing something like this. But it still did not mask, at the end of the day, the message of the film, and that they get across. There's good performances. I feel it's a pretty easy watch for the most part. It moves along, kind of thing. Nothing's ever boring because you're jumping to different sets every couple minutes or different characters every couple minutes. So I think it's a fairly exciting movie that unfolds, kind of thing. But yeah, I think it was considered a disappointment. Carradine even went after this. I mean, he had a couple shots at like wide released cinema. We have Lone Wolf McQuade, which came 6 or 7 years later, which was one of his last shots at the big screen for a while. I'd have to think about it, but I know he did POW the Escape for Canon in '86 on the tail end of all the Vietnam films that Steve James co-starred, the late Steve James co-stars in it with him. But Canon was kind of petering out around that time, and I can't remember if that went to the big screen or not. He played the villain in Bird on a Wire, so maybe he kind of learned something from Lone Wolf McQuade. I want to do a bigger movie. I might have to, cut back and be a villain here and there and there. It's hard to say, but he was pretty versatile. He probably played a villain just as much as he played a face throughout his career, probably.
I really got nothing else on this, folks. If you like 70s cinema, if you like martial art films from a bygone era, I would check this out. I would go out of my way, go to Amazon Prime or wherever you can, rent this for $4. It's a little hard to find outside of Prime, but I would check this out. Can't speak for Len, but yeah, I would experiment with some extracurriculars, and I would soak this in all the way. So
yeah, myself, I just sit back, and I don't do drugs of any kind really, but I enjoy sitting back and having a screwball on ice kind of thing, and just sit back and really take it in. You know what I mean? It is an open your mind kind of film for sure. Not just with the message and stuff at the end, but like I said, just the craziness that ensues in the visuals and things like that. I have it on Blu-ray from, I think, Blue Underground had put out a Blu-ray of it, I believe. I have that one. It's a pretty nice looking Blu-ray and stuff, but again, somebody out there put out a 4K for this movie. The photography's too gorgeous not to kind of thing. This movie would be done justice with a proper 4K release, in my opinion.
is there any kind of commentary on that?
I don't remember. I have it sitting right over there, though. But it's definitely. I remember I blew through the whole Blu-ray in one night and just watched everything. So where something like the Jaws 4K that I just got, whatever it was last summer when it was released, it's impossible to watch all that in one sitting. The bonus featurettes are 2 hours long, kind of thing. So, I remember the look and stuff of the picture is really good, so you're not going to be disappointed. It's not a Blu-ray rip of something where it's not like really good looking or anything like that. So well worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. Len, is there an episode of Kick-Ass Movie Podcast from last season you want to plug?
Yeah, I mean, going back on this past, I mean, these are all films I really loved growing up and still do. And we talk about, some films that have that rewatch value. I probably watch Circle of Iron once every couple years at least. And I've done that for the last many years, 20 years, whatever, 25 years. But, these are all films that for me have that high replay value. I could probably watch King of the Kickboxers every month. I could probably watch Martial Outlaw every month. Those kinds of things. These are all films that I really like, and a lot of for very different reasons. We have your Martial Outlaw, macho, crazy fight choreography kind of movie. Then we've got something like King of the Kickboxers, which feels like a Hong Kong movie, yet has the American actors, all the American aspects that we have going into King of the Kickboxers, especially in terms of casting and stuff like that. But yet it feels like it's a Hong Kong movie. Then we have something like Circle of Iron that ditches the martial arts macho thing and goes for something really philosophical and stuff. So I like all these films for different reasons, but yet they fall under the same genre that we've talked about. It's martial arts.
There you go. Is there anything else you want to plug, particularly with the Patreon? I mean, we've been talking Pact of Vengeance, but maybe a fist of a filmmaker or something that really stands out that folks should check out.
Yeah, on my Patreon campaign, again, it's patreon.com/killerwolffilms. I do a forgotten movie den, which lately I've been admired in a Tubi TV random tournament kind of thing. So we have a bracket. We did 16 action films. Actually, Joe Esposito from Ozone Late Night is my co-host on those episodes of the Forgotten Movie Den, which we started just this year doing this Tubi tournament. I've done several Forgotten Movie Dens where we do special episode. Like one of my favorites is a non-martial art thing here, but it is Jaws: The Revenge versus Orca, and the similarities of the two films and which one is better. And it's one of my favorites. It came out in July of 2020, I think that episode came out. But you'll find they're all on YouTube and stuff. But all those things are on my Patreon campaign to watch there and support their best. But yeah, we do that. There's tons of my movies are all on there. The older ones, Fist of the Vampire, Curse of the Wolf, all that stuff. I'm surprised people still watch those, but I'm very great. I am grateful of it. I hope they check out my newer works, but I am not pissed off if you don't and just want to stick with those works. But I think you'll notice a different an evolution of filmmaking, if you will, from the stuff I've done. There's a big difference between Curse of the Wolf and Angel of Reckoning or something like that. But they're all on there. You can download most of them. If not, you can watch them right on Patreon and it'll stream right on the site there. But my films, podcast, there's hundreds of hours of entertainment there. It's $2. Sign up and enjoy, kind of thing. It's better to support me there than to go on Tubi and watch it. Although I want anybody just to enjoy it. So if it's somebody that's, well, we don't support things like Patreon, that's fine. Go watch it and enjoy it. Many of my films now, several of them are on Tubi television for free. So, but to support me best, the $2, believe it or not, is. I mean, it would take people watch 400 hours of my stuff for me to get $2 off of Amazon Prime kind of thing. So it's a big difference.
That's what's up, folks. I've been telling you all about the microdose. That's every Friday. I've been telling you all about Waffle Box Podcast. That's the best part of Wednesdays. You know all of this. What you don't know is that Sweet Science Cinema is coming back in 2022. Len's been a guest on that. Maybe we can be a guest on it again, but we're expanding the lore. Not only will we have Sweet Science Cinema on the same schedule that we've had the Kick-Ass Movie Podcast every 2 weeks when it debuts, we're going to extend it 6 more weeks and do Squared Circle Cinema. Both Pro Wrestling Hall of Famers, myself, Kush Hayes, and Jameel Hemphill, we're going to be talking about our 6 favorite pro wrestling movies. I hope you can enjoy that. More details as they come, but I'm very excited about this and can't wait for you guys to be a part of it. So, Len, is there anything else you want to add?
No, it's just been a fun series. So thanks for putting this one together. And we will continue on with the Kick-Ass Movie Podcast, my man.
Hell yeah, man. Looking forward to season 3 of this. And we'll let you know all about that as it develops. But until then, for the director of Pact of Vengeance, Master Len Kabasinskis, I've been Kush Hayes. You've been you.
From the BosNet family.
Well, he's quite dead now, I think.